I passed through the book and became an evil male character that no one could compare to. From a young age, I started bullying the 3-year-old heroine, snatching her milk bottle. When I was 5 years old, I kicked her doll away. When I was 10 years old, I made her do my homework for me. Growing up, in order to keep a small life, I deliberately entered another university to stay away from the female lead. Unexpectedly, at the welcome ceremony for new students, I met her again. She grabbed my wrist tightly, her voice crazy to the extreme. "Brother, why are you hiding from me?" When she was young, Lu Nu Yin was not a noble lady, but a poor girl. Father doesn't love her, mother doesn't love her, she only has tattered clothes, walks barefoot all day, her face is black, her hair is messy. I just went through this, I'm still a bit shocked. The original owner's grandfather bought him a small cake. He happily showed it off and teased the female lead. The female lead threw a rock at him. Unfortunately, the rock hit his head and the cake also fell to the ground. From then on, the feud between the two officially began. Every time we meet, I think of ways to tease her. But when Nu Yin went to college, he liked her and wanted to pursue her, destroying the male and female protagonist's feelings. And then, the two of them found evidence and sent him to prison. In the end, he was killed by fellow inmates. I touched the head that was hit. Luckily, the swelling wasn't too big. The little girl was standing not far away, glaring at me fiercely, as if she wanted to rush in and steal something. If she weren't the female lead, her suggestive face right now would be extremely annoying. But come on, people are just over 6 years old. What can my 22-year-old soul do to rub it any further? The original owner is also 10 years old. It's not worth messing with a kid. I quietly picked up the small cake. The cream on top was no longer usable. Only the cake layer underneath remained. After wiping the stains away, I placed it on the wall, called Nu Yin, pointed at the cake, and then turned around and entered the house. She was so dirty, so I didn't dare go near her. I just hid in the house and peeked through the window. Nu Yin didn't seem to have thought about this turning point. Her cruel eyes were a bit stunned. Right after that, he picked up the cake and ran away. A few days later, she quietly showed up at my door again. I was extremely agile, took the leftovers, poured them into a large bowl, and placed them on the wall, and returned home without asking. I don't want to care about her. He even wanted to be like the original owner, take a rock or a stick and chase her away. Those scary heavy eyes always stared at others, making me feel like she didn't have good intentions. Grandma asked me, "Why haven't you chased that girl away these past 2 days?" I scratched my head, speaking with morality. The teacher said to help others. Furthermore, didn't she say that his father was an alcoholic and his mother also left? How pitiful. She lovingly stroked my head and smiled. My grandson understands things now. He's grown up, haha. Actually, I just want her to remember the favor of being fed by me and not to cause trouble for me in the future. So a week passed in peace. While I was doing homework in the yard, there was a loud bang that startled me. The bowl that was previously on the wall was now 2 meters away from me. This rotten little girl. This is the 4th one. The first one has never returned. The second one's whereabouts are unknown. The third one sleeps and scolds outside my house. Very good. The 4th one has hit my yard as if the leaves had fallen back to their roots, and that spoiled brat has long since run away. I placed a bowl on the wall again, put a sugar candy in it, held a bamboo stick more than 1 meter long, and hid behind a tree, waiting for Nu Yin to come to me. I will act on behalf of heaven and teach her a lesson. But after waiting forever, mosquitoes still bit my leg bones. The girls next to me are not golden ladies, but they are also beautiful beauties. Now, after school in the afternoon, I sweep the classroom, lock the door, put the key on the teacher's windowsill, and prepare to go home. As soon as I got downstairs, I saw a few upperclassmen carrying Yin running past me. Stand still for a moment, sigh, then turn around and knock on the door of the 6th grade teacher's room. Consider it today a heroic act. The teacher hurriedly ran after me, but I didn't feel anything. In any case, it won't kill you to find someone like Yin who was left behind. In the rice fields along the road, his whole body was drenched, covered in mud, leaving only his crazy eyes, cold to the bone. Nu Yin sat in the corner of the field looking extremely small and lonely. I was startled. The original owner also encountered this problem before, but let it develop. He even laughed at her and threw mud at her. After a while of teasing, he left. I walked to the edge of the field and held out my hand. Nguyen extended her hand, but she still sat motionless in the field, her eyes half closed, her whole body pale from the cold. His eyes, which should have been innocent and cheerful, were now filled with darkness, as if wanting to drag others into the abyss with him. I immediately took out a candy and held it forward. Yin's eyes slowly moved, revealing a trace of resentment. After a moment of hesitation, she tried to stand up. The heavy mud seemed to want to pull the little girl down. After struggling for a while, standing up and falling down, she finally stood up, and slowly coming in front of me, a body covered in mud, not a hint of skin color could be seen. I took back the candy, held that hand, dipped it in water, and washed it clean. This hand was tiny and bony, making my heart suddenly filled with discomfort. Wash off the mud. The teacher standing next to him frowned, as if he was in big trouble. Finally turned to look at me and said, "Classmate, please take her home." I said gently, "Teacher, it's best for you to handle this matter. Nguyen's father is a famous alcoholic in the village. When he gets drunk, he beats people." Finally, the teacher contacted the parents of some upperclassmen so they could negotiate, taking Yin to clean up and change into old clothes, not knowing whose they belonged to. After a few days, I finally got to see the true beauty of the female lead. Oval face, big eyes, white skin, other than being thin, it's impeccable. As expected of the female lead. She followed behind me, carrying someone else's old briefcase. The bag was heavy, bent almost to the knee, but still much better than her old bag. It was black and dirty. One strap was broken and temporarily tied with a knot. The broken zipper opened its mouth like a giant monster. I don't know where it was picked up from. I turned around, but Yin also stopped walking and looked at me coldly. "This morning you stole my dumplings. I'm very unhappy about that, so if it happens again, I'll beat you." She raised her head, looked at me fiercely, then immediately turned and ran away. I shouted after me, "Candy!" She suddenly stopped, then quickly turned around and snatched the candy from my hand and ran away again. This action made me unable to help but laugh. What a rotten brat. When I got home, my grandmother asked me, "Why hasn't that girl come lately?" I said I didn't know, maybe because I said I would hit her and make her hate me. Knocking on the rice bowl, but unable to call anyone. No one took the meal left on the fence, leaving only a cloud of buzzing flies. Maybe she has eaten yet? At school, I just maintained my life without needing the bowl of rice I gave me anymore. I think leave it for 2 more days. If no one takes it, I won't leave it anymore. But I forgot that this is an old novel. The heroine did not suddenly become crazy, but has always been like that. She single-handedly killed a cat right in front of me on the village road. A motorbike drove at speed. The teacher also rushed over to advise, "Don't hit a child like that. If you hit this child for stealing, you have to scare him so he won't dare steal again next time." What did it steal? Stealing other people's coat hangers and laundry detergent. Hearing this, I also understand. I taught her to wash clothes. She was very obedient, but there were no washing machines or clothes hangers in the house, so this happened. I clenched my fist so hard that it left nail marks. The pain brought me back to my senses. Now, I can't just go out and hit that bastard. So when he got to the stairs, I rushed out and gave him a smack on the back, causing him to fall to the ground. I quickly bowed my head and apologized. "Uncle Lou, I'm sorry, I didn't mean it. I was too busy going to the bathroom. I didn't have time to look where I was going. I'm sorry. It's okay. Thank you, Mr. Liu." I ran quickly to the bathroom. When I got home from school, I arranged some clothes hangers, poured half a packet of laundry detergent into a bottle of mineral water, then placed it on the wall and tapped the aluminum pot. Nguyen poked her head out from behind the wall of someone else's house. I pointed at the bag and told her to take it home. Nguyen slowly walked over. Her hair looked like it had been washed. Although it has a light yellow color due to lack of substance, it is still very soft, and the clothes have been changed. The only thing is that it belongs to a boy, and there is no longer a bad smell on his body. It's just that some places have not been washed yet. I pointed behind the ears and the entire neck. She said when bathing, "These places must also be washed." Nguyen obediently nodded, then looked at me again. I gave her a piece of candy and whispered, "Does it hurt?" The child's hand holding the candy was stiff. Even though he was standing straight, his eyelids were slightly drooping. This is not being stubborn. It's clearly just stubbornly fighting to survive. I gently rubbed her head and encouraged her. "Everything will get better. It will definitely be okay. I told myself in my heart, your biological mother will come pick you up, your stepfather will also treat you well, and there will be an older brother who will take good care of you. She will love him too. No matter how early I wake up, my grandmother is always earlier than me. She finished making breakfast and then fed me first, so she could go to school and wait for me to bring my school bag. She gave me a bag. Inside were 2 gray sweet potatoes. She said she baked them in the kitchen last night and asked me to give them to Yin. I called out to Yin, reminding her to say thank you. However, she was upset and didn't say anything, but her grandmother still gently patted her head. No, there's no need for a few worthless potatoes. Eat your fill and go to school. I didn't expect much, so I pulled her out. At that moment, a weak voice rang out, "Thank you." At first I thought I was hallucinating, happily clapping my hands. Great, let's go. Hurry to school. I study on the 2nd floor, like Yin lives on the 1st floor. When school ended, I went down and saw her being punished by standing at the classroom door. The strict and impatient teacher questioned, "Why don't you do your homework?" New Yin remained silent, standing there motionless like a tree. "If you still don't do it next time, I'll call your dad." This threat can be very serious. However, Yin did not react. I don't care. There's no damn system that forces me to do the task, but maybe my heart is still a saint. Thinking of the first way to let her be able to support herself while growing cabbage for my grandmother. Use chopsticks to tap the aluminum pot and call Lu Yin to teach her to follow. The little girl's face was confused. I patiently taught her again. After finishing school, go back to your husband, support yourself, and don't steal anymore. Nguyen seriously watched my every move. Finally, I brought her a bowl of rice along with half a packet of cabbage seeds, brought it home, and sprinkled it on the ground. If you don't know anything, just come and ask. Looking at her go, I couldn't help but shout, "Remember to do your homework. I'm not your guardian. There are some things I can't control." Hearing that, Nguyen turned away, angry. "You rotten brat. This man hasn't even bothered to get angry, yet you're still angry. Is that so?" For some reason, when being taught by the teacher, Nguyen said I was her good brother. But think for a moment. This heroine tearing other people's clothes is not a good habit in astronomy. So I went over and patted Nguyen on the back. "You're already good. Let's fight." No matter what, she couldn't tear someone else's clothes in such a cold winter. "You rotten brat. Your actions are too cruel. If this reaches your father's ears, he will kill you. Hurry up, apologize to your classmates. Otherwise don't talk to me anymore." Nguyen glanced at me, then rushed like an arrow into the office, immediately knelt down in front of the other boy, loudly apologizing. I was speechless. The teacher was speechless. That boy was in the classroom with his bare arms shaking, speechless. Suddenly my nose felt stinging. "This brat, do you think you have to kneel down to apologize?" On the way home, I explained to her the whole way. Apologizing means being sincere, realizing your mistakes, and saying it from the bottom of your heart. The most important thing is to correct the mistake, otherwise saying sorry has no meaning. No matter what, don't kneel so easily, unless it's extremely important or you have to. Listening to me constantly, the child's eyes were shiny, curved into small crescents on his face, filled with joy. It's really strange, being scolded but still having fun like that. During the final exam review period, I was shocked when I accidentally saw a literature test with 18 points. The female lead only got 18 points. In the book, there is not much description of the female lead's childhood. Everything is just as basic as a dragonfly gliding through water. I took my eyes off the crumpled paper and looked at Nguyen, who was behind me doing homework. "Where's your math test?" She stopped, stepped back a bit, and slowly pulled out another piece of paper from her briefcase for me. "It's ruined, but you can still clearly see the red pen ink. 83 points, still fine. There are 2 weeks left until the final exam. No matter how much I supplement, it won't be enough in time." So I taught her to organize her school bag and called her over to my house on weekends to review all the tests I could find in a notebook. After the exam, I asked her to read literature books and math books, but this student is really not easy to teach. Constantly asking about meaningless things. This one doesn't understand. That one doesn't understand either. This one doesn't know. That one doesn't know either. Finally, I also felt the suffering of the teaching profession. There's no need to think about the final exam. Just leave it until winter break and add it later. Unconscious, the evil fox didn't even eat me. I don't understand what kind of animal Lu Bin is. In the middle of a cold winter night, a 10-year-old girl was killed by her father hanging from the rafters. Pain, despair, suffering every beating until he lost consciousness. When she fainted, did she feel like she was finally free? When the uncles carefully laid her down, I quickly wrapped her in a large cloak. Her whole body was cold on her white skin. Old wounds, new wounds, and bruises covered each other. I know she won't die, but my heart is still very uncomfortable and painful. Today is December 28th, only 2 days left until Tet. Children from other families are pampered. Even if they are naughty, they are ignored for Tet reasons. Yet, during the Tet holidays, Lu Nu-yin was severely beaten by his biological father. She was taken to the hospital, 2 ribs were broken, her calf was crushed, and her wrist was bleeding due to the tightness of the paper. I don't understand what this scum Lu Bin is thinking. It's terrible. There was no one in the hospital to take care of her like Yin, and Lu Bin's family had no relatives. But Mr. Toy told me that people in the village joined hands to contribute money to Nu Yin. A woman who was taking care of her daughter-in-law who was giving birth at the hospital also conveniently gave food to Nu Yin. On the night of the 30th of Tet, I went to visit her. The child sat silently on the hospital bed like a shell without a soul. I painfully stepped forward. Nu Yin looked up, her eyes cold again. I gently hugged her, comforting her. It's okay, it'll be okay. Everything will be okay. Nu Year also cannot leave the hospital. I bought her new clothes, new shoes, lots of snacks, and also wrapped a red envelope for lucky money. When I left, the child bowed his head and said thank you. Not long after, Nu Yin was picked up by her mother. It was very good. If she stayed away from her father, she would have a good life. Lu Nu-yin hopes that when we meet again, you will already be happy. Time passes quickly like a fox running in the field. 10 years later, it's still the same old school opening ceremony, the same scorching sun. The new student sat upright, his face full of excitement and nervousness, sweating profusely. Dare to be in the sun, but his eyes are still full of excitement. My student is like a withered eggplant, bored with school, tired, and full of dissatisfaction. My roommate and I both cursed the scorching heat and scolded the leaders for insisting on holding the opening ceremony at 9 a.m. and forbidding umbrellas. Suddenly, a clear female voice carrying the coolness of the forest stream rang out to greet everyone. I am the new student representing Lu Nu-yin. Hearing this name, I couldn't believe it and raised my head to look at the podium. The speaker was wearing a white dress sparkling in the sunlight. Didn't Nu-yin study with the male lead at Northern University? This is a Southern University, and this year is only my 3rd year. Maybe it's the same name and the same last name, but it's not the same Lu Nu-yin in the classroom and in the dormitory. Many times I have come across people passing around photos, videos, and rumors about Nu-yin, the little girl who has grown up and is now beautiful and radiant. Every frown, every smile is gentle and loving. Every gesture exudes a natural, calm demeanor. Her eyes are still the same, a calmness mixed with coldness. The patience and thorns of the past seem to have been hidden by her behind a calm appearance, but sometimes in certain moments can still reveal some clues. Many male students are fascinated by Nu-yin on the school forum. Photos and videos about her are everywhere, and even fictional stories written by students about her are springing up like mushrooms after the rain. Finally, Nu-yin returned to her position as the female lead, shining among everyone like the moon in the night sky, cold as bone, unreachable high, but she didn't recognize me in the restaurant. We happened to bump into each other. I was wondering if I should say hello, but she walked right past me. Hello Tran Trake, this is Zhang Trung. Ms. Bach is also present here. This Tran Trake really has a thick skin, standing opposite as Yin introduced us to them. I smiled and nodded to a rather timid-looking girl across from me. Zhang is a scholarly, intellectual girl who wears glasses. Each girl has a different appearance and temperament, but Lu Nu-yin still stands out the most. I looked at Lu Nu-yin's face, thinking that when she heard my name, her expression would change a bit. But no, she still remained calm, nothing strange. I didn't care anymore, just focused on chatting with the girl opposite. Suddenly a brick sound rang out. I turned my head and saw that the cup in front of Lu Nu-yin had been knocked over. Water spilled all over the table. People sitting nearby quickly pulled out tissues to help her. Tran Trake worriedly asked if he was wet, but Lu Nu-yin shook his head without saying anything. Then his eyes scanned the crowd, accidentally facing me. I just nodded slightly, then turned away as the conversation started again. A girl introduced herself. "Hello guys, this is Lu Nu Yen. I'm Tam Hu So. This is Vu Hu Oi, Ham Min Chow." After shaking hands and greeting each other, everyone sat down. The phone suddenly vibrated. Tran Trake sent a message to the group. "By the way, do I want to exchange goddesses with you? This is my girl. Leave the roommates to discuss." I quietly turned off the phone and went to the bathroom, but after coming out, the person opposite me changed to Lu Nu Yen. I looked at Lu Nu Yen, then looked at the others. These guys are really too much, changing places so openly. I looked at Lu Nu Yen sitting opposite. She was bowing her head, attentively eating, her bangs hanging down on her forehead, her long and thick eyelashes gently fluttering under the light. Her appearance looks obedient and gentle like an understanding child. Isn't it a bit strange? Just now, he was cold and distant, making people not dare to come close. But now he has become this docile, easily bullied look. "You brat. Have you even honed your acting skills over the past few years?" I always felt like she didn't have good intentions, so I didn't say anything, and spent the whole process just focusing on eating. The phone vibrated again. Ko Neem Bok scolded me. "The girl has looked at you a few times. The more she looks at you, the more upset she becomes. Her eyes are also red. You should also raise your head to look at her and say a few words, you bad guy." I looked up at Lu Nu Yen. She bowed her head deeper. I could only see the high straight bridge of her nose. The tip of her nose was slightly red, as if she had cried. The corners of his eyes were a little red, his appearance pitiful, as if someone had just used him. I was stunned. This is not the Lu Nu Yen I knew before. No matter how upset she is, she always stays strong and hides her hurt. Could it be that the male lead has taught her so well? Faced with the poor little girl, I gritted my teeth and still chose to resist, considering myself a bastard with a heart of stone, staying away from the heroine and looking towards a better future. So, after the meal, I directly waved goodbye and said, "Aren't you going to see a movie?" Nu Yin took a half step forward. A bit of important expectation flashed in her eyes. No matter how shy she was, her thoughts were still clearly revealed. She wanted to get close to me, but I don't know if it was because of the small friendship from 10 years ago, or just because of today's meeting. So, I refused. I have to go home and do my homework. Goodbye. In the end, no one went to the movies. On the way home, Tran Trake asked me, "Don't you have feelings for that girl?" I glanced at him, then said, "Do you think I'm as hungry as you?" Yes, you're so noble, you're so wonderful. You're the older brother that everyone loves. If you don't want to be a boyfriend, you have to be a good brother. You're a full person. How can you understand a hungry person? I still plan to go. See her face from behind. In the darkness, the moments on the screen illuminated her face. I could see her innocence and purity to an unbelievable extent. Lu Nu Yen sat there, immersed in the story of the movie, sometimes tilting her head slightly, smiling, and sparkling eyes as if she were discovering a new world. The movie ended, and as the lights in the theater gradually brightened, she turned to look at me with a bright smile. Her eyes seemed to shine with joy, making the surrounding atmosphere seem warmer. Nu Yin innocently stood up, her face full of excitement, and pulled me out of the theater. "Dude, let's go eat ice cream." Her voice was as clear as a small bell, and I could only nod mechanically. When we walked together on a street full of lights, I felt everyone's eyes on us. Lu Nu Yen, with her beautiful appearance and natural charisma, seems unaware of the attention she attracts. She happily told me about the little things in everyday life, about her dreams and future plans. Every word she said made me surprised at the innocence and pure personality she still maintained. We stopped at a small ice cream stand, and Yin chose a vanilla ice cream. As she ate, a little ice cream stuck to her lips, and I suddenly laughed when I saw that scene. She looked at me, pursed her lips in rare embarrassment, then quickly wiped it away. "Do you like ice cream?" she asked me, her eyes full of anticipation. I realized, no matter how many people were around, no matter how many unhappy stories, just seeing Lu like Yen smile, I felt like everything seemed peaceful again. She has a strange charm, a magical innocence that I know that, no matter how hard I try, I cannot completely leave her. My head was quite confused when I heard these words. Did Lu Nu Yin know my every move in advance? It seemed like she was well prepared to face every possible situation, including my transfer to Northern University. But how could she know so much about my personal plans? After a moment of contemplation, I decided to face it and asked directly, Nguyen, how did you know I would take the entrance exam to Northern University? And why did you decide to retake the exam, just to pursue me? Lu Nguyen's eyes suddenly flashed with a determined light. She smiled, a smile that was no longer innocent like before, but full of confidence and determination. Mr. Gon, I have been following you for a long time, not only because I like you, but also because I want to be by your side and learn from you. I know where you will go and what you will do, because I have spent a lot of time understanding you. Nguyen's confession surprised me. I wonder, should I continue to feel angry about being followed, or should I appreciate this deep concern? Nguyen did not hesitate to express her feelings and even put everything on the table just to be with me. I took a deep breath, trying to calm the vibrations inside. Nguyen, you've done so much for me. Maybe it's time for me to rethink our relationship. Do you really want to continue on this path when it requires you to sacrifice so much? Nguyen did not answer immediately. She looked down at the cup of coffee in front of her, her eyes becoming thoughtful. After a moment of silence, she raised her head, her eyes more determined than ever. Mr. Gon, I know what I want, and I'm willing to pursue it no matter how difficult it is. I don't regret what I've done because I love you. Nguyen's words echoed in my mind, making me realize that, no matter what happens, the feelings that Nguyen has for me are sincere and deep. Maybe it's time for me to reassess things, not from the perspective of a male supporting character in the story, but as a man facing real love. At first, the original owner wanted to take the exam, but I wanted to avoid that bloody story, so I deliberately took the exam to enter a Southern university. Nguyen bowed her head and said softly, Brother, I pursued you very hard. What kind of pursuit is this? Is it a pursuit for love or a pursuit to kill me? I stared at her warily and asked coldly. She smiled softly and replied calmly, I didn't do anything. I just wanted to repay the favor you gave me to eat. I laughed out of anger. Repaying a favor? Pretending to be innocent to toy with me. Is this your way of repaying a favor? I don't see any gratitude. I just see that you want to take revenge on me. Brother, I'm serious. Don't call me brother anymore. I'm not your brother. I can't bear the title of brother. Faced with my utter love, she became gloomy. Her expression clearly did not change, but around Lu Nguyen, a chilling cold wind seemed to rise. The coldness penetrated the bones, her icy eyes cut like knives. Let's go home. I'm going back to the dormitory. After saying that, I definitely left without even looking back. Unexpectedly, Lu Nguyen did not go. Just like that, I squatted at the school gate and didn't go out. The snow was falling more and more thickly. It was getting darker and colder. I also saw some people going on social networks. It's cold outside, but there's still a girl in love waiting for someone. I cursed myself for being too soft-hearted. It was truly a disease that was difficult for him to cure. Then he sighed and hurried to the school gate. When she arrived, Nguyen almost turned into a snowman. When she heard my call, she raised her head, her face red with joy, her lips purple but still smiling with victory. You know, in the end I can't leave you alone. As soon as I got close to Nguyen, she slowly stood up and suddenly the whole person fell into my arms. Do you feel uncomfortable? Just a little dizzy. Let me take you to the hospital. No, leave reluctantly. I booked a hotel online and took a car to take her there. The warm air from the air conditioner made Lu Nguyen's face even redder, unusually red. I was worried about her. I have a fever. I have to go to the hospital right away. No. Are you leaving me at the hospital? No way, I said. Go take a hot bath first. I'll go buy some cold medicine for you. Suddenly Nguyen grabbed my arm and asked sweetly, Brother, can I still call you brother? Faced with her expectant eyes, I didn't know what to do other than nod in agreement. I helped Nguyen take off her coat, then laughed at her shoes. The shoes were so wet that they were almost frozen. The socks and hem of her pants were also wet, making her cold feet turn white, and even her hands were cold. This is not good. If suddenly exposed to hot water, it will crack. So I squatted on the ground, rubbing her feet. While rubbing, I scolded myself. It's true that he has a late-stage heart disease. Rubbing until my feet were red and hot, I looked up and gently said, Okay, go take a shower. Suddenly Nu Yin rushed forward, hugged my face tightly, and kissed me madly. Only when the ceiling light shined directly into my eyes did I wake up, forcefully turn my body, and push her down, holding her hands tightly. Nu Yin looked straight into my eyes. "Ko Gan, don't you like me?" I panicked and awkwardly crawled up. "I'm going to buy medicine." Nu Yin grabbed my sleeve and asked, "Will you come back?" Looking at Nu Yin's eyes, I suddenly remembered her appearance as a child, cold and crazy like a poison that pulled people down to the abyss. Finally, I nodded and said I would come back. Hearing my assurance, she slowly let go, looked up at me, the corner of her mouth slightly raised, her eyes icy. "That's best." A while later, I returned with the medicine bag in my hand and still saw Nu Yin sitting on the ground. Quickly went to help her up. Nu Yin stared. I picked up a brick and hit him right in the head. This time, I didn't run anymore. I just want to kill him and eradicate the threat, but human strength is limited. I was hung up and beaten, but even so, I still tried my best to kick him, using all the cruelest curses to curse him. I counted to 4,372 seconds before losing consciousness. I see the proverb. He was wearing Spider-Man pajamas, his face full of worry and anger, and then he put his jacket on me, as if Spider-Man had really come to save me from my earthly misery. In life, everyone has unforgettable moments, and all of my moments are related to old sayings. On the night of the 30th day of Tet, the old saying came to visit me. He also bought new clothes, new shoes, and even personally folded a red envelope for me. I called his grandfather. In addition to telling him to be careful with my father, I also told him to answer the phone and tell him to come pick me up. He accepted, saying, "You just stay in the hospital, I'll come pick you up on the weekend." But he didn't come. The weekend passed, and by Wednesday there was still no sign of him. At this moment, I realized that to him, I was just a child. Maybe I should appear before him with a different appearance. So, I decided to leave, wait until I grow up, and then come back to look for him. Every time I remember the old saying, I sit down to the number until I can't stand it anymore and call his house. But his home phone number was changed to a non-existent number. I crossed the stream of time, trying to catch up with him. I skipped a grade and passed the entrance exam to Northern University, but he wasn't there. I even suppressed my disgust and attended my father's funeral to listen to news about the old saying. I asked my old neighbors and found out that their family had moved to the city a long time ago. I went to his old house, stood on the wall of old memories, held up my phone to take a photo. Half of it was the sky, half was the mountains. Each of us has our own attachments, so do I. Such as the cake I never ate as a child, the sugar candy I found, and the man who kept sulking my life. Only when possessed can one heal, the saying goes. No matter what, I must have you.